I was born into a family that valued status above all else. From a young age, I was trained to be the perfect wife. While other kids were choosing their careers, I was learning etiquette, how to host dinner parties, and the importance of behaving properly at social events. It didn't matter what I wanted for my life because, to my parents, my future was already decided. I was supposed to marry a wealthy man and ensure that our family's influence kept growing. For a long time, I tried to fit into that mold. I knew that questioning the rules meant facing my parents' wrath, and that wasn't something I wanted to risk. But deep down, I always knew this life wasn't for me. My dream was to study law and build my own career. I had always been fascinated by the idea of fighting for justice, but to my parents, that was simply unacceptable. Women in our family don't need to work, they would say, as if it were an insult for me to want to achieve something on my own. The final straw came when, at 22, I found out that my marriage had already been arranged. The groom? Lucas Montgomery, heir to a real estate empire. I barely knew him, but that didn't matter. To my parents, it was the perfect match. Our families would unite, business would flourish, and my only role would be to be an elegant wife by his side. I had no say in it. I wasn't even asked. I was simply told that the engagement would be announced at an event in a few weeks. That was the moment I realized I couldn't keep living this lie. When I tried to argue, I was mocked. When I insisted I wouldn't marry him, I was threatened. And when I finally said no for good, my parents carried out the threat they had always used to control me. They kicked me out, cut off my access to money, and told me that if I wanted to be independent, I'd have to figure out how to survive on my own. And that's exactly what I did. I left home with little more than the clothes that fit in my suitcase and a small amount of money I had secretly saved. With no support and no concrete plan, reality hit me like a punch. For the first time in my life, I had to look for a job. And the truth? No one wanted to hire someone like me. My resume was practically non-existent. I had never worked before, had no experience, and to make things worse, my last name still carried weight in certain circles. Some people knew who I was and looked at me with a mix of curiosity and disdain. After countless rejections, I finally got a job at a restaurant where no one cared about my past. It was exhausting work, unlike anything I had ever done before, but for the first time, I felt like I was building something of my own. I learned how to manage money, cook my own meals, and take the bus to save money. Every small achievement felt like a personal victory, but there were still tough days. Days when I wondered if I had made the right choice. At the same time, I never gave up on my dream. I spent sleepless nights studying to earn a scholarship for college. My first attempt failed. The second one did too. But on the third try, I got accepted with a partial scholarship. Even then, it wasn't easy. The money I made barely covered my expenses, and balancing exhausting shifts with classes was a constant challenge. During this time, I ran into old acquaintances at city events. They pretended to be friendly, but the same judgment-filled questions always came up, as if my new reality was an absolute failure. The worst part was when my mother showed up at the restaurant. She looked at me like I was a lost cause, and without hesitation, told me I still had time to fix my mistake. Lucas was still single. All I had to do was go back, and everything would return to normal. But by then, I had discovered something they never allowed me to see. I was capable. Even without privileges, without help, without shortcuts, I was building something with my own hands. The following years were the hardest of my life, but also the most transformative. I worked tirelessly, faced looks of disdain, and learned to rely on no one but myself. There was no one left to save me, and deep down I realized I never needed saving. My dedication paid off. I graduated with honors, and thank God, and thanks to one professor who believed in my potential, I landed an internship at a prestigious law firm. At first, people only saw me as the fallen high society girl, But over time, I proved I was more than just a last name. I was competent, determined, and had something none of them did, an insatiable hunger to win. Over time, I climbed the career ladder until I opened my own firm. And with every case I won, I felt like I was not only correcting my clients' injustices, but also rewriting my own story. And then, fate brought an unbelievable twist. I received a new case, a high-profile divorce involving none other than Lucas Montgomery. The man I was supposed to marry was now about to lose half of his fortune to the wife who, according to him, had cheated and was trying to take everything. He was desperate, and his traditional lawyers couldn't turn things around. So, the Montgomery family sought someone specialized, and that's how the name Mary Jane Carter came up as the best in the business. I accepted the meeting, not because I wanted to help him, but because I wanted to look that family in the eye and see their reaction when they saw me. And it was exactly as I imagined. When I walked into the luxurious conference room, dressed as the powerful attorney I had become, I saw the stunned expressions on Lucas and his father's faces. They finally realized who I was, but unlike them, I had nothing to prove. I just smiled, politely declined the case, and walked out. Days later, my parents tried to reach out. First, just a simple, "How have you been?" They wanted to reconnect. Time passed, and things changed in ways I could have never imagined. Looking back, I saw how much I had grown, how much my journey had shaped me. It wasn't just about financial independence or the career I had built. The most important thing was the freedom I had finally achieved. The freedom to be whoever I wanted to be, without the expectations or judgments of others. I was finally in control of my own life. My parents, who once tried to force me into a destiny that wasn't mine, kept trying to reach out. But the emotional distance was something that couldn't be fixed with words or gestures. They sought me out, hoping for reconciliation, as if everything could be mended with a simple, "I'm sorry." One day, when my father called to ask how I was doing, something inside me decided it was time to be completely honest with them. I told him about the difficult journey I had endured to get where I was. I spoke about the sleepless nights, the moments of doubt, and how much I had learned to trust myself. And above all, I told him that despite everything, I forgave them, but that I didn't need them to be happy or successful. I never imagined that such a simple moment could carry so much weight. In that instant, I felt a deep sense of peace, a sense of closure. I had been the protagonist of my own story. When we free ourselves from the expectations and impositions of others, we can discover an untapped strength, a resilience we never even knew we had. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more inspiring journeys of resilience, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, turn on notifications, and share this story. See you in the next video.